Imagine waking up to a stranger in your room holding a razor and your hair scattered on the pillow. No, it's not a nightmare, it's real. He claims it was all a mistake. But can you really trust someone who destroyed not just your dreadlocks, but also your sense of safety? And what happened next, you won't believe. Alright, let me set the scene for you. Imagine a guy who just escaped from prison. Yeah, that guy is me, Lucas Carter. 32 years old, 5 years behind bars, and 20 hours of sweet, terrifying freedom under my belt. I'm out in the middle of the night, soaked to the bone because the rain apparently decided to throw its own welcome back party for me. Classic. Freedom wasn't as glamorous as it sounds. It was cold, wet, and my stomach felt like it hadn't seen food in a week. But hey, it beat sharing a cell with Richie, the Nightmare Daniels, my old cellmate. The guy made life in prison feel like one long, miserable joke. And guess who the punchline was? Spoiler alert, me. But we'll get to him later. Anyway, there I was, sneaking through a neighborhood that looked like a Pinterest board for suburban living. White picket fences, trimmed hedges, and houses so clean you could eat off the driveways. One house caught my eye. It had this warm, inviting glow coming from a single window. Perfect. I figured the house was empty. Who leaves a light on and doesn't lock the back door? Exactly, people who don't expect a guy like me. So I slipped inside, trying not to leave muddy boot prints on the cream-colored carpet. Yeah, good luck with that. The place smelled like lavender and cinnamon, which was weirdly comforting for a guy fresh out of a high-security facility. I walked through the kitchen first, granite countertops, fancy appliances, and a fridge so big it could probably house my entire criminal record. But I wasn't here for food. I needed to get clean, like actually clean, not just metaphorically. The bathroom was like something out of a spa commercial. Marble tiles, fluffy towels, and this rain shower head that made me question everything I thought I knew about plumbing. I cranked up the hot water and let it pour over me, washing off the grime and tension of my escape. It was probably the first time I felt human in years. Then I found it, a cheap disposable razor tucked away in a drawer. Perfect. I lathered up my face and started shaving, trying to make myself look less like a fugitive and more like someone who could blend into society. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. My hand froze mid-stroke. I stared at the bathroom door, which I was sure I had closed, but now it felt like it was mocking me. The sound came again, soft but deliberate, like someone trying not to wake a sleeping baby. My heart started racing. My hand slipped and the razor nicked my cheek. Blood trickled down, warm and sharp against the cold sting of panic. I grabbed a towel and pressed it to my face, trying to think. Did I leave a trail? Did someone see me sneak in? My brain was running laps, but my body was on autopilot. I crouched low and slipped into the corner of the bathroom where a pile of dirty laundry sat. Not glamorous, but desperate times, you know? I stayed there for what felt like hours, every creak of the house turning my nerves into live wires. Whoever was out there wasn't making much noise anymore, but the silence was even worse. Eventually, my curiosity, or stupidity, got the better of me. I had to figure out what was going on. I crept out of the bathroom, holding the razor like it was some kind of weapon. Not the most intimidating thing, but hey, you work with what you've got. The house was eerily quiet, except for the faint hum of a refrigerator somewhere in the distance. When I reached the bedroom, the door was slightly ajar, and that same warm glow from earlier spilled out into the hallway. I pushed the door open and froze. There she was, a woman, asleep on a queen-sized bed, her head resting on a pillow like it was a throne. Her skin was deep brown, smooth and glowing, even in the dim light, and her hair, her dreadlocks, spread out like a crown. Those locks hit me like a punch to the gut, dragging me back to the darkest corners of my past. You see, Richie had those same kind of dreads. They were his signature, his badge of pride, and the same damn thing that haunted me every night in that cell. Seeing them again, even on someone else, felt like fate was playing some cruel joke. I stood there, razor in hand, torn between anger, fear, and something I couldn't even name. I wasn't thinking straight, how could I? All I knew was that those locks reminded me of 5 years of hell, and now they were right in front of me again. And that's when it hit me. Maybe this was my chance to take control, to erase the past, literally. Okay, let's rewind a little. Picture me standing there in the middle of this stranger's bedroom, gripping a disposable razor like it's Excalibur. The woman on the bed, peacefully asleep, blissfully unaware that her uninvited guest was standing just a few feet away. Her dreadlocks, those perfectly twisted ropes of hair, splayed across the pillow like they were mocking me. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't trying to scare anyone. I didn't break in thinking, oh, let me find someone to terrify tonight. I just wanted a safe spot to regroup. But those dreadlocks, they hit different. They weren't just hair. They were memories, and not the warm, fuzzy kind. They were the kind that dragged me back to 5 years of feeling powerless, trapped, and, well, let's just say it wasn't a time I wanted to relive. But my brain wasn't working on logic. It was running on raw emotion, and let me tell you, that's a dangerous fuel. I stepped closer to the bed. The floor creaked under my weight, and I froze. The woman stirred, but she didn't wake up. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might give me away. Every instinct was screaming at me to turn around, get out of there, and disappear before she even knew I was there. But instead, I just stood there, staring at her hair. Richie had hair like that, same thick, perfect locks. And every time I saw them, it was like he was reminding me who was in charge. Those 5 years in that cell were his playground, and I was just the unlucky guy stuck there with him. I hated those locks. Hated the way they swayed when he walked, the way they framed his smug face, the way they made him feel untouchable. And now here I was, staring at another set of locks on someone who had absolutely nothing to do with him. But my brain, it didn't care about the difference. All it saw was an echo of my worst nightmare. "This isn't personal," I whispered, more to myself than to her. I crouched down and brought the razor to the first strand of hair. The blade met resistance, but it cut through with a soft, almost satisfying snip. The sound was weirdly calming, like breaking a chain. I worked through the next one, then another, until a small pile of locks started forming on the bed. It was almost hypnotic. Each strand I cut felt like I was taking back a little piece of my sanity. But then the unthinkable happened. The woman stirred again, and this time her eyes fluttered open. For a split second I froze, hoping she'd roll over and go back to sleep. No such luck. Her gaze locked onto mine, and her expression shifted from confusion to pure, unfiltered terror. "What? Who are you?" she gasped, scrambling back against the headboard. Her voice was shaky, but there was steel underneath it. "Look, just stay calm," I said, holding up my hands like that would magically erase the fact that I was a stranger in her bedroom holding a razor. I didn't mean, "This isn't what it looks like." "Yeah, great line, Lucas. Real convincing." "What are you doing in my house?" she demanded, her voice growing louder. "And why are you cutting my hair?" I took a step back, trying to figure out how to explain something I didn't even fully understand myself. "It's not about you," I said, which in hindsight wasn't exactly comforting. I just needed a place to stay, and your hair, look, it's complicated, okay?" She wasn't buying it. Her eyes darted to the nightstand, and I realized too late what she was reaching for, a lamp. Before I could react, she grabbed it and swung it in my direction. I managed to duck, but barely. The lamp crashed to the floor, sending shards of glass flying everywhere. "That was unnecessary," I shouted, raising my hands again. "Can we just—" But she wasn't done. She was already halfway out of the bed, her fists clenched like she was ready to fight me off with sheer determination. "I'll scream," she warned, her voice steady now. "The neighbors will hear me. The police will be here in minutes." "Please don't," I said, my voice desperate now. "I'm not here to hurt you. I swear. I made a mistake, okay?" She didn't scream, but she didn't back down either. "You think you can just walk into my house, do whatever this is?" She gestured at the pile of her hair on the bed, "and walk away. You've got another thing coming." At that moment, I realized two things. One, she was a lot braver than I would have been in her shoes. And two, I was in way over my head. So there I was, standing in this woman's bedroom, razor in one hand, my other hand up like I was surrendering, and a whole pile of her dreadlocks scattered on the bed. She looked like she was about 2 seconds away from calling for backup or swinging that lamp at me again. I had to think fast. The problem? My brain was working slower than an old dial-up modem. "Okay, listen," I said, trying to sound calm, which was hard when my heart was racing like I'd just run a marathon. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I know it looks bad. No, scratch that. It is bad. But I promise I wasn't trying to hurt you." "You've got about 10 seconds to explain yourself," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "And that better be the best explanation I've ever heard, or I'm calling the cops." Oh, great. No pressure, right? I glanced around the room, looking for anything that might help me out of this mess. My eyes landed on the mirror across from the bed, and for the first time I caught a glimpse of myself. Wet hair, blood drying on my cheek, holding a freaking disposable razor. It was like the universe was laughing at me. If I didn't know any better, I'd call the cops on myself. I panicked, I stammered, the words tumbling out of my mouth faster than my brain could filter them. The hair, it reminded me of someone who wasn't exactly kind to me. I guess I just lost it for a second. She blinked, her expression softening just a fraction. "So you broke into my house, cut my hair, and thought what? Therapy by trespassing was a good idea." Well, when she put it like that, it sounded even worse. "I know it doesn't make sense," I admitted, "but I swear I didn't mean to scare you. I just needed a place to hide for the night, and then," I gestured at the bed, "this happened. Honestly, I'm as confused as you are." Her eyes flicked to the pile of hair on the bed again, then back to me. "Confused? Oh, I'm sure. But guess what? You're not the one who woke up to a random guy standing over you with a razor." "Fair point. Okay, you're right," I said, taking a cautious step back. "This is all kinds of wrong, and I'm leaving. Right now. No harm, no foul." She crossed her arms, clearly not impressed. "No harm? You cut off my hair. Do you even understand what that means? My dreads weren't just hair, they were me. Years of work, gone in one night because you had a moment?" "I didn't mean to," I started, but she cut me off. "Save it," she snapped. "You don't get to just walk out of here and pretend this didn't happen." The anger in her voice was sharp, but there was something else there too, hurt, regret, and honestly, she had every right to feel that way. I'd crossed a line I didn't even realize existed until it was too late. Before I could figure out how to fix this, or if it was even possible to fix this, there was a loud knock at the front door. My stomach dropped. I didn't need to look to know who it probably was. The neighbors had heard the commotion, and now I was about to meet my old friends in blue again. "Who is it?" she called, her voice steady despite the chaos of the last few minutes. "Mom, this is the police," came the reply. "We've received reports of a disturbance. Can you open the door?" I looked at her, panic setting in. "Please," I whispered, "don't do this. I can't go back." She stared at me, and for a moment, I saw the conflict in her eyes. She could turn me in right now and put an end to whatever mess I was dragging behind me, or she could let me go and risk who knows what. "I'm not helping you," she whispered, her voice low but firm. "But I'm not ruining my own night dealing with this either. Get out, now." I didn't wait for her to change her mind. I bolted toward the back door, grabbing my jacket on the way. The rain had started up again, drenching me as soon as I stepped outside. I didn't stop running until I was halfway down the block, my lungs burning and my mind racing. As I turned the corner, I heard the muffled sound of her opening the door and talking to the cops. I didn't stick around to hear the details. All I knew was that I dodged a bullet, barely, and that I had no idea where to go next. But one thing was clear: this night wasn't over yet. What would you do if you were in Lucas's shoes? Would you run, try to explain yourself, or face the consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know ever been in a similarly tense or unexpected situation? Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like and share this story if it got you thinking or sparked a discussion. This story is meant to shine a light on important issues and encourage us to reflect on how our actions impact others. Together, we can create a kinder, more understanding world. Your voice matters. Let's make a difference.